Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this press conference to conclude this Informal Council on Environment. It's the first Informal Council under the Belgian presidency that will take place in this Egmont Palace in Brussels. Brussels Environment Minister Alain Marron and European Commissioner for the Environment, Oceans and Fisheries Virginijus Sinkevicius will both make a statement first, and then we will take some questions. Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. A short introduction first. Thank you, all of you, for being here. The discussions over these 2 days have enabled us to create, I think, a solid basis for progress on the issues that concern us all. The momentum is important between two European legislatures. We had, as you know, discussion about those Belgian accents, the adaptation to climate change, the just transition, the circular economy, this morning for the circular economy, and the EU's climate targets, the next EU's climate targets. We also welcomed, in the beginning of the Council yesterday, the Belgian novelist David van Rijbroek for a general introduction that allowed us to put our discussion into a broader context linking climate and environmental issues with democratic issues. We had also important discussions about adaptation policies. As you know, the time has come to become more and more resilient in the face of the consequences of the climate change. We also welcomed the Executive Director of the European Environment Agency to present the first ever report on climate risks, which will feed into the European Commission's communication on the subject in the next weeks, and you will receive information about that from the Commission. We had discussions about our climate ambitions by trying to identify the missing links in the Green Deal and its unexplored opportunities, how to finance the Green Deal, the link between agriculture policy and climate policy, for instance. As I said, the just transition was also at the agenda. Rudy Deleu presented the opinion of the European Economic and Social Committee, requested by the Belgian presidency on this topic. And finally, today was devoted to circular economy. Thanks to the contribution of the International Resource Panel, we discussed about how the circular economy can make a coherent contribution to climate neutrality, the restoration of biodiversity, and the zero pollution goals. That's for my introduction. Virginijus, I don't know if you have to introduce.
Just a couple of words.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, and good afternoon to all. And it's, of course, my pleasure to be together here with the Minister, and I would like to use the opportunity and first of all really to thank you for this very important meeting and a extremely important agenda. As you all know, circular economy has been one of the core pillars of the European Green Deal. So therefore, today's meeting was a great opportunity to really look back at the 2020, when we have introduced the action plan on circular economy, and what a long way we went through. And actually, I'm truly happy to say that we have fulfilled all the plans and actions that we have put forward. Now it will take time, and today I have focused a lot in my presentation. Also, we could hear that from Hans Brunings and the director of the Environment Agency. Implementation. Implementation is going to be a key so that the circular economy fully delivers its potential, which we have programmed and envisaged. More importantly, that we win on all fronts. And that's why probably member states, members of the parliament, have supported circular economy action plan through all this mandate. Because if you look, we first of all ensure our strategic autonomy. We significantly decrease pressure on the biodiversity. And more importantly, we empower citizens. We give Europeans a choice of basically what to buy, ensuring that they don't fall into greenwashing traps, and etc. So that was a great exchange today, which of course, as I said, we're entering a super busy Belgian presidency with some initiatives to be still finalized, but I believe that we have put a solid fundament for the circular economy to become a norm in the EU, because without circularity, there is not going to be climate neutrality. Now, just a couple words on yesterday from the Commission side, focusing on the climate agenda. So first of all, it was deep dive in adaptation, resilience, climate neutrality, and the challenges to just transition. We need to continue. We need to continue with our ambitious path towards climate neutrality in line with the advice of the European Scientific Advisory Board on climate change. And Commission will present communication and a detailed assessment of the 2040 climate target in February this year. And so it's going to happen around 6 months within the global stocktake in line with the European climate law. And the assessment will be accompanied by a report on the indicative greenhouse gas budget for the EU for 2030 to 2050, also called for in the European climate law. And in March, Commission plans to put forward a communication on managing climate risks. The main objective is to better protect our citizens, our economy, against the consequences of climate change. And in this context, I'd like to highlight extremely important issue which has been dear to my heart, is of course water resilience. Water is the ultimate natural resource, and everyone still takes it for granted until, of course, it's too late. So it touches on everything, from food we eat to the digital transition that powers the economy of tomorrow. So the competition for these limited resources is only going to increase. And therefore, if we don't address these issues now, we are storing up severe problems for the future. So I want to start a broad society-wide conversation about the water, making people more aware of the challenges and of the immense advantages that are in building up our water resilience. I want best practices across the European Union to be shared among the member states. I'll stop here. I'm happy to take your questions, and let me thank again, Minister, for this excellent agenda.
Thank you, Virginius. Thank you to be here. Thank you for the Commission, because you were very active during these days and available to answer to the questions from the Council members. So it's up to you if you have any questions. We will try to answer.
So please just state your name and your media before you ask your question. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Kate Abnett. I'm from Reuters. Minister, I have a question about the 2040 climate target that the EU is considering. Based on your discussions here, what kind of level of support is there among member states for a target of 90% emissions reduction or more? And were there any countries that opposed that sort of level of ambition? Thanks.
It was not exactly the sense of the discussion. It was an informal discussion during the lunch. The question was how to have the highest ambition possible, but in a framework of just transition. How is it possible to reach the targets, to maintain and reach new targets for 2040, maintaining social cohesion? That was the central point of the discussion. So we didn't discuss about, is it 90, 92, 89? That was not the point, in fact. We didn't have discussion about that. But more, how is it possible to do it? and to succeed, in fact, with the population, with the citizens, with the organizations, and with the businesses.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Laura. Merci for context. I have a question for each of you. Monsieur le ministre, concernant l'eau, oui, le sujet plutôt de la résilience dans le domaine de l'eau. Quelle a été la nature des discussions? Quelles sont les demandes des États envers la Commission européenne qui prépare cette nouvelle communication? Qu'est-ce que vous imaginez que l'UE devrait faire à son niveau sur le sujet? Et to the Commissioner, also on water, you said that there is a growing competition for demand of this limited resource. So what is the Commission working on? What are the options on the table? Could you look at prioritizing the use of water between sectors? Yes, what's on the table? Thank you.
Sur la politique d'adaptation, en fait, on a eu deux inputs importants. L'Agence européenne de l'environnement, qui a présenté des premiers éléments ou un premier draft, je dirais, d'un rapport à venir sur les risques pour l'Europe, les risques en tout genre liés au dérèglement climatique. Après cela, la discussion a tourné autour d'éléments centraux et surtout comment faire pour apporter des réponses qui soient le plus systémiques possible. C'est-à-dire qu'on ne peut pas aborder la question de l'adaptation et de la résilience en la prenant par paquet ou par segment. La question de l'eau est centrale, qu'on parle des sécheresses ou des inondations ou de l'approvisionnement en eau ou la capacité à avoir suffisamment d'eau pour l'agriculture, par exemple. Ce sont évidemment des questions centrales, mais il y en a beaucoup d'autres. Nous devons trouver les moyens, urgemment, d'amplifier une politique qui permette au système socio-économique de résister aux chocs de plus en plus importants que nous allons endurer dû au dérèglement climatique. Et donc, il y a eu une présentation dans ce draft d'un certain nombre de scénarios, des scénarios avec un réchauffement conforme, je dirais, à ce qui est prévu dans les accords de Paris, aux engagements des accords de Paris, pour autant qu'on y arrive, et des scénarios, comment dirais-je, plus compliqués, avec des réchauffements supérieurs et donc, évidemment, des impacts supérieurs. Et un certain nombre d'alertes ou d'alarmes dans un certain nombre de secteurs. On peut dire, mais du reste, nous le voyons quand nous faisons face à ces événements dramatiques, dans la plupart des cas, nous sommes insuffisamment préparés. Si on prend l'exemple des inondations qui ont cours dans le sud et l'est de la Belgique et en Allemagne il y a 1 an et demi, objectivement, nous étions insuffisamment préparés. C'est un fait, c'est factuel. On a pu le voir. Après, beaucoup de choses ont été mises en place, mais nous étions, et on ne s'y attendait pas. On fait face à des événements, les événements en Grèce, par exemple, sur les inondations, alors qu'on attend au niveau de la Grèce des incendies importants, etc. Là, c'était des inondations dramatiques qui ont coûté, je pense, 0,5 ou 0,8 points de PIB. Il faudrait vérifier le chiffre, mais il nous a été donné. Là aussi, ce sont normalement des pluies qui ont un retour millénaire, un temps de retour millénaire. Donc effectivement, nous sommes dans un état relatif d'impréparation sur un certain nombre de conséquences du dérèglement climatique. Et donc il est temps, plus que temps, au niveau des pays, au niveau des municipalités, des régions, des pays et au niveau européen, d'avoir la politique la plus coordonnée, la plus cohérente et la plus ambitieuse pour tenter de faire face. Ceci dit, disant ça, nous ne sommes pas nulle part. Dans beaucoup de pays, évidemment, on met maintenant en place, outre le fait que la Commission européenne pousse elle-même des plans d'adaptation, nous mettons en place des plans d'adaptation. Même dans une région comme Bruxelles, on a progressivement des plans de réaction, par exemple à des inondations fortes, qu'est-ce qui se passe, etc. Et vous le savez aussi, en Belgique, le gouvernement fédéral, via la ministre Zakia Katabi, met en place un cadre administratif pour l'évaluation de la menace, considérant qu'en fait, à juste titre, je pense, les menaces climatiques ou qui découlent des dérèglements climatiques sont des menaces pour la sécurité nationale. Et donc le modèle, c'est vraiment la sécurité nationale et ce qui est mis en place au niveau fédéral pour assurer, avec les centres de crise, et d'avoir peu ou prou la même chose au niveau de l'adaptation et du climat. Et donc ça, c'est mis en place, par exemple, en Belgique. Néanmoins, beaucoup de choses restent à construire, puisque malheureusement, et sans faire preuve d'excès de pessimisme, le pire est sans doute devant nous en termes de conséquences des dérèglements climatiques.
Yes, so
Ouais.
a bit because I think it was a very important part touched on prioritization. So we're not looking at prioritization of the sector of water use. First of all, what we're really going to look at is the efficiency. Secondly is upstream and downstream, because very often, we need to think of, what happens through the whole length of the river, so that the neighbors wouldn't be left without the fresh water. So really those cross-border issues. We will focus a lot on what we have agreed at the UN Water Conference as well, delivering on those promises. But the details will come in March. We are still working on the proposal, and there are quite a lot of options on the table. But let me reassure you that we're not going for the way of, establishing a priority list. I hope that we will never arrive to that point, and this is the resource which we will manage to cherish and secure for the future generations.
Yes, here in front, and then you, sir.
Yes, hello, Frank Hütten from the German transport journal Deutsche Verkehrszeitung. I would like to come back to the topic of the climate target. You said, Minister, that the point was to discuss how to get there to the long-term climate target, I suppose. So can you give us some insight? What was the discussion like? What did member states want? How do we keep population and business on board? Do they want more subsidies? Do they want less strict targets in emission trading, for example, or something completely different? Thank you.
Frankly, I was surprised by the fact that mainly we agreed on many topics and many aspects. Nobody asked for less ambitious targets, but there is a really shared preoccupation about how to do it. That's a very big transformation of the society that will happen in the next decade, not the next decades, but the next decade. It's important to have the citizen with us, the organizations, the businesses, and so on and so on. So it's important to have predictability for all the members, I think. Of course, to have solutions about how to fund this policy. We will need to invest a lot in mitigation, of course, but also in adaptation. We know it will cost more if we don't do that. But anyway, we have to invest quite soon. So it must be possible for all the public administrations, the local, regional, national, and even European. So this was this kind of things that was discussed during the lunch.
John Ainger, Bloomberg News. Kind of a follow-up to that question. Obviously, there's EU elections coming up in June, and green issues may be one of the major talking points in the run-up to that. Commissioner, do you think the European Commission should use this 2040 communication to outline better how it's going to mobilize the hundreds of billions of euros to meet these climate targets and what it's going to do to enable that just transition. Do you feel that's a message that's being lost at the moment? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. So absolutely, I think, the crucial point on which we need to focus is just transition, because people, citizens here in Europe, they must know, that these steps, why they're taken, I think more or less society is clear about. But what are the next steps? How we accompany them through this transition? The regions, especially, because we have such an inequality across the regions. So that's definitely going to be the center of the attention, and that's the messages which I hope all politicians will be able to pass through to their citizens across the member states. But 2040 target, it's going only to reaffirm EU's determination to tackle climate change and define the post-2030 trajectory, but also it's going to be an extremely important point reaching the 2050 target. So there is no 2050 without making the important homework a must work in 2040, by 2040.
One question in the back. Yes, please.
Aminata Niang, Agence Europe. J'aurais deux questions concernant la résilience et en particulier l'eau. Donc ce qui est prévu, c'est une communication et pas une nouvelle législation. Et d'autre part, il me semble qu'en octobre, au Parlement européen, vous aviez parlé de tarification de l'eau. Alors je me demande comment, donc tarification de l'eau qui est prévue dans la directive cadre sur l'eau. Je me demande comment concilier l'exigence de transition juste pour les citoyens et la tarification de l'eau, donc pour les citoyens et pour les agriculteurs, par exemple. Et concernant l'économie circulaire, j'aurais une question pour vous deux. Je voudrais savoir exactement si on considère aujourd'hui qu'on est satisfait avec ce qui a été fait. Et du coup, je me demande, avec toutes les législations qui ont déjà été adoptées et celles qui sont déjà sur la table, sur le point de l'être, sur quoi porter la discussion exactement, puisque vous avez l'air satisfait. Merci.
Shall I start?
Up to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for your questions. So I'll begin with the second question, and then I'll go into water. But with the circular
Can I add something with the second question?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the circular economy, I am satisfied because we have delivered on all the set out agenda of the action plan. Yes, it will take time until it really becomes a norm, becomes a law in the member states. But if you look at this cycle, or the political cycle of 2020 up to today, we have really managed to do it all. I'm particularly happy that we ended last year with the provisional agreement on the eco-design directive, which is basically a core of the circular economy. And from the very beginning of my mandate, I've emphasized that we need to change slightly where we looking at, because there was a lot of concentration on the end of cycle, recycling, reuse, and etc. But we need to focus at the beginning of the cycle, design stage, which programs many of the issues that we face at the end of life of the products while they're served. And I'm truly happy that we've managed to shift that attention into design stage. On top of that, I always said that, you know, at the end of the day, it's people's choice, and I'm happy that there are a number of initiatives that we rolled out that will empower Europeans, that will empower citizens, that will give them a better choice. And we see from the success of the Eco-Design Directive, which was initially introduced for energy efficiency, citizens do like to have informed choice, and they very often go for a product that is going to serve them longer. So I'm truly satisfied, but now there is still a lot of work to be done on the ground. Now, when it comes to the resilience and particularly water initiatives, I'm proud that we're going to take this step still in this mandate. That we haven't postponed the issue for the next mandate. And communication will be a very broad one. But of course, the primary users of the water resources, such as our farmers, they will be highlighted highly on, in the communication, because already today, if you look at the south of Europe, farmers are struggling. And they are forced to change the way they farm because of the lack of water. So of course we need to find creative solutions here. Circular economy actually can tremendously help as regards the water reuse. This is still a opportunity that is not being used in some member states. In others, we already see a significant progress, but it's still not enough, and it's not unified enough.
Sur l'économie circulaire, on n'a pas passé du temps à juste se congratuler. Ça n'était pas non plus tout à fait l'objet des discussions, d'autant plus que la contribution de l'International Resource Panel était aussi une forme de signal d'alarme. Alors pour être tout à fait clair, le cadre européen à cet égard est indispensable et il nous aide. Il aide les États. Regardez, pour deux exemples que moi je connais bien en tant que ministre régional, l'obligation de tri des déchets organiques qui est en vigueur depuis le début de cette année. Je ne pense pas que sans le cadre européen, ce serait une réalité. C'est l'Europe qui l'a poussé et l'a rendu obligatoire. Et donc du coup, ça commence à se traduire. Voilà. À Bruxelles, étant où depuis 6 mois, on a doublé les quantités de déchets organiques collectés et nous commençons à réduire la quantité de déchets non triés. Très franchement, c'est grâce à l'Europe. Je veux dire, c'est nous qui le mettons en œuvre, mais le cadre régulatoire européen nous aide, c'est un support pour avancer sur ces politiques. Et Monsieur le Commissaire a cité d'autres politiques sur lesquelles il y a une détermination forte au niveau européen, qui ouvre des portes et des possibilités pour les États et pour les régions. Ceci dit, si on n'a pas passé du temps à se congratuler, c'est parce que, nonobstant ça, et des avancées très très importantes dans les cadres régulatoires européens, mais aussi nationaux et régionaux, force est de constater qu'au niveau macro, si on regarde de manière un peu dézoomée, nous arrivons encore insuffisamment à réduire nos productions de déchets qui finissent comme des déchets. Et nous n'arrivons pas réellement encore aujourd'hui à diminuer nos ponctions de ressources non renouvelables. Donc il reste un enjeu majeur à accélérer. Et là encore, dans les différentes conclusions, l'idée était de dire que cette circularité dans l'économie doit faire partie d'une politique de transition économique globale au niveau de l'Europe et que donc la circularité doit être pensée à tous les échelons et dans toutes les filières. Parce qu'en fait, l'idée de réduire l'utilisation excessive de ressources non renouvelables, eh bien, en fait, elle fait sens dans l'ensemble des filières et pas seulement, évidemment, dans la législation environnementale.
See another question in the back, yes?
Yes. Louise Guillot for Politico Europe. Belgian Prime Minister Alexander De Croo this morning in Strasbourg gave a speech. He talked a little bit about climate policy as well. He said that notably when it comes to Chinese and US climate policy, they often design them providing a lot of carrots, while the EU often grabs the stick. And so I'd like to have your reaction to that statement, and would like to know, do you feel that the Green Deal has been a lot about the sticks indeed? And in that sense, what should the next Commission be doing differently? Thank you.
Well, I'll answer about everything what this Commission did well, and not going to preempt what next Commission is going to do. Thank you very much for this question, but I really cannot agree with that, because I think at the end of the day, if you look at the Green Deal as a whole, it's clearly designed, and I think this is where climate policies very often win against the environmental policies, that climate policies in itself has a very clear motivational system. It's, of course, the price, the CO2, the carbon price, where basically if you go through transition, you don't pay the CO2 price. Yes, Green Deal, since it's been introduced as the first Commission policy, had the major role of the legislative policy. But if you look at the EU, Repower EU was the first actually global proposal with a nice sum of money on the table for member states in order to implement this transition. And if you go through the member states' prepared plans, the transition, the green transition and the digital is featured all along the way. On top of that, member states are free to choose their own system as regards the implementation of the Green Deal, looking more precisely how their industry looks like, how their energy mix looks like. A great example in Austria, where you have climate bonus, where basically the CO2 price is shared among the citizens. I think member states have been empowered. We've been consistent. And it is a great achievement what we have managed to do. And other parts of the world that is now actually also on that transition is because EU has been a first mover.
And I will not comment the Prime Minister declaration, of course.
Hello, Maïwen Lamy for Context as well. I had a question for both of you regarding your discussion on adaptation yesterday. So peut-être pour Monsieur le Ministre Marron d'abord. Donc l'adaptation est une de vos priorités dans le cadre de la présidence belge. J'aimerais savoir, d'ici la fin de la présidence en juin, quels résultats concrets aimeriez-vous atteindre pour dire sur ce point-là, on a rempli nos objectifs, on a réussi à avancer sur l'adaptation? Est-ce que ça passe par des conclusions au Conseil sur le sujet des risques climatiques, voilà. And for Commissioner Sinkevicius, I'd like to know more regarding the communication on on climate risk. So there's already been 3 years ago an adaptation strategy. So which blind spots would you like to fill with this communication? Thank you.
C'est un premier élément important de demander à l'Agence européenne pour l'environnement de venir exposer des éléments préliminaires du Climate Risk Assessment Report. Ça a permis quand même de lancer ou relancer encore une fois de plus ce débat au sein du Conseil. Ça fait œuvre de sensibilisation générale, je dirais, pour tous les États membres, et ça oblige aussi chaque État membre quand même à se positionner sur cette question et sur l'importance de cette question. Et donc la bonne nouvelle, entre guillemets, c'est que en fait, tous les États membres sont éminemment concernés, même s'il peut y avoir des différences, je dirais, d'une région à l'autre. Il y a des risques supérieurs pour certaines catégories de population, des risques supérieurs dans certaines zones géographiques. Nous allons attendre le rapport définitif et puis la communication de la Commission et nous aurons des débats au sein du Conseil. Je ne vais pas m'engager ici et maintenant sur le fait que nous aboutirons ou pas à un certain nombre de conclusions au Conseil de juin, mais ça reste évidemment l'objectif. La question de l'adaptation est une priorité pour l'ensemble du semestre. Donc évidemment, ça reste dans nos priorités d'aller le plus loin possible que nous pourrons sur cette question.
Yeah, on this I'll answer shortly because of course this is not my major area of work, and yesterday I was not present. It was Commissioner Hoekstra, but I think it's very clear. Of course, we need to assess what has happened since the introduction of the Green Deal. We need to ensure and deepen our energy independence. Protecting the citizens and businesses from the shock of the energy prices. We need to tap in better into the win-win solutions that are there. And I would say that what's very important that lessons learned and sharing, because from each plan we saw with different member states where they have managed to achieve certain successes, but in some areas they have not been so successful. And I think the Commission will be ready to support this exchange to highlight it in the communication. But as I've said, I'm not going to go broader, as I'm not a best expert in the room, and I think Minister has answered quite well. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Yeah, microphone.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So Paula Andres for Politico Europe as well. I wanted to ask to the minister, so in the beginning you spoke about the links between agricultural policy and climate policy. So there are many, but one of them is the new rules for gene-edited crops or NGTs. And so as you may know, this has been framed as a solution to mitigate the effects of climate change for farmers and in agriculture. And this is a priority for agriculture ministers during this term. So I wanted to know if you share this position and what do you expect from this file, as well as if it's going to be discussed by environment ministers, since it also touches on climate mitigation. Thanks.
The discussion was more about to have something really coherent. It's impossible to have contradiction between the European targets or contradictions between the targets in the European policies. So we have to adjust all the policies and all the targets in a coherent framework. That was the meaning of the discussion. And it was clearly expressed to the Commission yesterday and today. So I will not dive into the agriculture files, of course. I don't know them very well, and I'm president of the ENVI Council. But of course, there are many files which are linked and completely connected between the Agri Council and the ENVI Council.
There's another question here at the front.
Vincent Merks, VRT. I would like to know whether the conservation status of the wolf will be talked about in this ENVI Council under the Belgian presidency, or whether it will be the agricultural ministers.
It was not at the agenda today. But this is a question of wildlife conservation. So I think we can say that obviously it's a question of environment, mostly.
Okay, I think we managed to stay right on time, so if there's no more questions, I'd like to thank the Minister and the Commissioner, and also the members of the press, of course, and we'll hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Minister?